great faithfulness. Thank you for your divine protection. God, we present the matters of this house to you today. We pray that you be in the midst of us, oh God. Every deliberation will be consistent with your will and your way. Bless every senator, all their families. Bless all of the clerical staff. We plead the blood of Jesus over this day. We declare no weapon formed shall be able to prosper. We thank you now in the name that is above every name. And everyone says amen. You've taught us to say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. God bless you.
Good morning again, everyone. We'll continue with the order of business with the adoption of minutes. Adoption of minutes. Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Carl Bethel.
Madam President, I beg leave to move for the adoption of the minutes of the last meeting of this Honorable Senate, which meeting was held on the 27th day of May 2019, if I may obtain a second.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the minutes be adopted. As many as are in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes have been adopted. Motions for leave of absence, leave to resign, swearing in of new senators, communications by the President, messages from the Governor General, messages from the House of Assembly, laying of documents by ministers. Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Carl Bethel.
Madam President, I beg leave to lay on the table of this Honorable Senate the Grand Bahama Port Area Investment Incentives Extension of Time for Applications Order of 2019.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Yes. Madam President, there are a number of regulations that have been tabled in other place, and I will be tabling them this morning, and they will then have the force of law and come into force fully. I beg leave to lay on the table of this Honorable Senate the Financial Amendment Regulations 2019.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table.
Madam President, I beg leave to lay on the table of this Honorable Senate the Customs Management Amendment Regulations 2019.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table.
Madam President, I beg leave to lay on the table of this Honorable Senate the Value Added Amendment Regulations 2019.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table.
Madam President, I beg leave to lay on the table of this Honorable Senate the Business License Amendment Regulations 2019.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents.
Yes, Madam.
Further laying of documents.
Yes, Madam President. I beg your leave to lay on the table of the Senate the Price Control General Amendment Number 2, Regulations 2019.
Order that the document be brought up. Order the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
Thank you, Madam President. I beg leave to lay on the table of this Honorable Senate the Companies Amendment Act 2019, appointed day notice 2019, which appoints the 30th day of April of this year as the date on which the act came into effect.
Order that the document be brought up. Order that the document do lie on the table. Further laying of documents by ministers.
No further documents today.
Communications by ministers.
None.
Communications by senators. Questions. Answers to questions. Presentation of petitions. Appointment of select committees. Reports of committees. First reading of bills. Second reading and committal of bills. The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Carl Bethel.
This is the bill, not a big speech. Thank you very much. Good morning, colleague senators, Madam President. I move for the second reading in the middle of the bill for an act to establish a body to be known as the National Crime Intelligence Agency and to provide for its functions, powers, organization, and management, and for connected purposes. Madam President, this bill is long overdue. The Bahamas, as I always say, is a real country, a true country. We're not a jurisdiction, colony. We are a sovereign state in the middle of a troubling and challenged world. A world in which harmful actors constantly threaten either our neighbors or ourselves. The threat is real. And as a sovereign state, it falls upon us to do what is required to properly and adequately defend the sovereign rights and interests of our Commonwealth, to defend the democratic and constitutional rights and expectation of our people, and to prevent any act harmful to our constitutional and democratic founding principles, harmful to our people, or, if emanating from the Bahamas, harmful to our neighbors. In order to do this, as a modern sovereign nation in a troubled sea of international relations, where there are enemies, foreign and potentially domestic, who might harm all those things of which I have spoken. Our constitutional structure, our democracy, law and order, our relations with neighboring states. It is necessary that we equip ourselves and arm ourselves with the highest capabilities to meet these threats, seen and unseen. And sometimes you can only see what is unseen if you look for it. And sometimes even then, it eludes the common sight. This is why, as a sovereign, modern, independent nation, it is necessary to enhance the capacity of the state as an institution to defend its founding principles, to defend its people, and to defend the constitutional order, and to prevent the Bahamas from being a staging ground that may harm our neighbors. For these reasons, today we are here to debate a profound bill, an important bill, a bill that once enacted will equip the Bahamas with the tools necessary to defend its sovereign interests, to defend its democracy, to defend its people, and to assist our neighbors and the world at large in their own and in our common defense with them as a mature and responsible nation. Today we're here to debate the creation of a national crime intelligence agency. This proposition has been one utilized by some to spark the deepest and most irrational fears. But a true reading of this bill will show that those agitational efforts, perhaps well-meaning but ill-conceived, are wrong. They are desperately wrong. There's been some criticism of this bill by responsible civil society organizations. And when I read the criticism, I couldn't believe that they were reading the same piece of paper I was reading, because they quoted one area out of context entirely, totally out of context, and then used it as out of context and incompletely. I don't think they read the bill in full. They couldn't have. To have then used the misquote of the bill to construct a scenario that was inappropriate, wrong, and really was a false argument. A false argument. What does the power of a minister, as they say, to give directions to the director have to do with freedom of information, have to do with the ombudsman and the powers that these entities or bodies or commissions would exercise? What does that have to do with anything? And then to read this section about the minister's direction and to fail to say that in keeping with the constitutional amendment we passed to ensure the independence of operation of the Director of Public Prosecutions, any direction the Attorney General gives him must be in writing and gazetted. And this bill similarly provides that any direction given by the minister to the director of the agency to be formed must be in writing and must be communicated to others. In fact, to Parliament. The same safeguard against the abuse of ministerial authority that exists in the provisions governing the independent director of public prosecutions, in essence, applies in this bill. The minister cannot give a direction without putting it in writing and publicizing it. And yet, we see a false argument based only on the fact of the ability to give directions, without pointing out that that power is severely limited in this act, severely limited and constrained by the duty and obligation to put it in writing and to publicize it. And then to create this great superstructure of an argument that does not reflect the reality of the constitutional and legal limitations in this bill. The other great hypocrisy that we've witnessed is that the opposition have now found Jesus. Like Saul on the road to Damascus, suddenly they see some light. I think it's a black light, not a bright light, it's a dark light, but they see a light. This is the same group, government, in their turn, in which the leader and acting leader were members of the executive. They were cabinet ministers. They were policymakers. They sat there and agreed to a situation which was unacceptable, where a national intelligence agency had been formed, in fact, right over there in the Neville Bethel building on Nassau Street, without any legal basis, without any lawful authority, and now they sit around when we bring an act to institutionalize and create this entity in law. Suddenly, like Saul on the road to Damascus, they see the light. No, 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 we don't want this, don't do this. What rank hypocrisy to foist an illegal institution on the Bahamian people for 5 years, to come along with some draft bill and come to that bill in the 5th year and not pass it in any event, not have the courage to do so, while having this wholly unregulated, wholly illegal, wholly irregular, non-organization on Nassau Street conducting intelligence operations. They say this is a spy bill. Well, what was that? At least this is a bill. At least this is a law. But it is a law fundamentally different from the bill tabled by the opposite side when they were in government. Belatedly, 4.5 years too late, they finally produce a bill to try and say that they have the intention of legalizing an illegal operation. And they have the gall to oppose this. They have the gall to conveniently forget the wicked things they did when they were in office. Wickedness. Wicked, wicked, wicked. Wicked. Oh, heavens. Madam President, this bill is a good bill. It corrects the overreach that was in the bill laid by the former government, the members opposite, when they were in office. That bill gave what was then called the National Intelligence Agency, the NIA, had it been passed, would have given the NIA jurisdiction to exercise its powers to collect intelligence from mobile devices, from social media, networks, etc., in respect of any crime. Any crime. So if the opposition was planning a wildcat demonstration and word got to the NIA, they could spy on the opposition. Because if you conduct a demonstration without the permission in advance of the Commissioner of Police, thereby informing the government of your intention to demonstrate, which oppositions don't like to do because they like to maintain the element of surprise. Well, since that is technically a crime, not a serious crime, but a crime nonetheless, the PLP bill would have allowed them to be subjected to intelligence inquiries from the NIA. Any crime. I know Bahamian social media talk about all kinds of things that aren't really crimes, right? They might cause you to get in some trouble at home. But none of those were ever in the scope even of the PLP's bill. A marital crime is not a crime, so that's out the window. But without a shadow of a doubt, the power to use intelligence-based information gathering in respect of any crime was far too wide a power. Far too wide a power. And so the first thing that we did when we came to office was to look carefully at the provisions in the first draft that the PLP had laid in Parliament. And we determined that it would not be appropriate for an intelligence agency to have any kind of intelligence interest in respect of crimes that were not of the most serious nature. So if you're dealing with little summary offenses, thieving by reason of employment, demonstrating without a permit, all the little minor traffic offenses, which really aren't crimes either, but still any crime, any offense would capture that. We determined that the first limitation that had to be put in this bill was to limit the scope of operations of any intelligence gathering agency. And so we limited it consistent with the Proceeds of Crime definition in the Proceeds of Crime Act, where we created a species of general category of criminal offenses called identified risk offenses. Those identified risk offenses are essentially the offenses in respect of which, if there's a suspicion by law enforcement or the agency, if information comes to the agency in respect to these offenses, these are the proper areas and the proper areas only of any intelligence-based inquiry. These are the offenses. An offense against the Anti-Terrorism Act. Terrorism. An offense against the Proceeds of Crime Act. Money laundering. Hostage taking. Contrary to the Suppression of the Taking of Hostages Act. Abduction. That's kidnapping. Kidnapping, which is a terrible problem, not in the Bahamas, but I could tell you that in at least 2 of our sister Caribbean region countries, there is an industry of targeting the children of politicians, business persons, social activists, leaders in the community. They kidnap their children for ransom, and God knows what happens. And it's a serious problem in some countries in our region. Genocide. What more horrific crime is that? We in the Bahamas know about genocide. We know what happened to our Lucayan forebears. We know what the Spanish did in the first recorded genocide in all of human history in the name of the cross and the crown. Human trafficking. Today, modern sex slavery. Hijacking. Possession or use of weapons of mass destruction. Corruption, contrary to the Prevention of Bribery Act, the Penal Code, and the Common Law. Cybercrime, contrary to the Computer Misuse Act, the Data Protection Act. Isn't that a topic? Now, where we see that cybercrime is a major international concern, affecting not just the voters' rolls in certain states in the United States, affecting not just their election, but affecting business and commerce. The smuggling of firearms or dangerous drugs, contrary to the Firearms Act and Dangerous Drugs Act. Pornographic information or data on children or exploited persons. Membership of gangs and organized criminal groups. Economic crimes and counterfeit currency. Treason. Treason. An offense contrary to the Immigration Act. An offense contrary to the Customs Management Act. And poaching. Well, Yes, poaching. The Bahamians do not wish to see the Bahamas able to station intelligence agents in the Dominican Republic. Do the Bahamian people not wish us to be able to station intelligence agents in Port-au-Pay and Cap-Haitien to see who's building the boats, to see when the boats are loading up? Do Bahamians not wish us to have as much possible information about the activities of both national and international drug traffickers? Do we really not wish to have information about people dealing in child pornography, human trafficking, sex slavery? Do we really wish to walk blindly down the alley and not have information about possible potential terrorism attacks either in the Bahamas or against our neighbors from the Bahamas? Should we continue with this optimistic and I think unrealistic belief that it can't happen in the Bahamas when we have instances of human trafficking, sex trafficking that are constantly being found to have occurred either in or through the Bahamas as we speak? Should we not have the ability to have intelligence officers posted as liaisons and registered agents in foreign countries so that they can have direct operational contacts with intelligence agencies in our allies and neighboring states? So, for example, we have an FIU, Financial Intelligence Unit, that has direct contact with financial intelligence units throughout the world, and they share information and assist each other every day without going through the diplomatic channel, without ministers knowing anything about it, without anybody else knowing anything about it. It's a point of contact to share intelligence-based information about money laundering and terrorist financing. And it's been going on since 2000. That hasn't infringed anybody's civil or human rights here in the Bahamas, or indeed anywhere else in the world. Similarly, our law enforcement agencies, through Interpol and sometimes through direct connections, operational contacts, have and share information every day directly and receive information, intelligence-based information every day. And in fact, one of the initiatives that my ministry has pursued as part of our role in assisting the Minister of National Security in his responsibility as the chair of the Trafficking in Persons Committee is that we, with the assistance of Foreign Affairs, reached out to every neighboring country from which we have any basis to believe that their citizens are either trafficked in or through the Bahamas, or which serve as a traveling point for other areas in their region through their country, through the Bahamas, and from the Bahamas elsewhere. So we reached out to Panama as the transit point, not as a source of any large numbers of trafficked human beings being Panamanian, but it is the air hub that Latin America uses to come to the Bahamas. So countries such as Venezuela that are going through terrible turmoil, terrible economic and political sufferings, whose vulnerable populations, particularly women or children, could potentially become victims of human trafficking. We have to be alert to this. So what did we do in the Office of the Attorney General? we reached out to forge bilateral contacts. The Minister of State today is traveling now to Colombia. He was in Mexico 2 months ago. Today he's going to Colombia to further that and to forge bilateral contacts between law enforcement officials who are with him, with the law enforcement officials in Colombia, so that we are able to have direct operational contact with law enforcement personnel and agencies to fight the same threat. In that case, the case of Colombia and Mexico, it is the trafficking in human beings. But to do that, you're taking agencies, you're cutting through the bureaucracy of statehood and forging direct links at an operational level. Do Bahamians not want, in a similar way, for our country to develop the capacity to have intelligence officers who could be registered as foreign agents in all of our allied nations, with whom we have joint security and joint economic concerns, to be able to be posted in our diplomatic missions in those countries, to forge direct operational intelligence-based links with their counterparts in those countries, so that the Bahamas is better able to play a meaningful role in the global fight against terrorism and all of these identified risks that are now in the first schedule to this bill. Surely you jest. Should we continue to say, oh, we're just a little country, we can't do this, we can't do that, and then some disaster happens in or from our shores? What excuse do we have then? This bill is needed. This law is needed. We are continually and daily assailed in terms of our financial sector by unforeseen challenges. They pop up out of the woodwork. We have no information. We have no contacts at the official level in terms of not the top. Of course, foreign affairs is at the top, but isn't the top that makes these decisions. It's the people on the 6th floor down below you. Paul Adley very famously said, because, you know, when he was Minister of Foreign Affairs under the Pinling administration, the late Paul Adley, every year would travel to Canada and the United States to meet as our major partners the respective secretaries of foreign affairs, etc., and to discuss issues that they might have or concerns they might have with the Bahamas. And he said, when you are up there on the top floor telling the Secretary of State your issues, and he is shaking your hand and sympathetically nodding his head at you, yes, don't worry, don't worry. There's someone down there on the 6th floor writing your country's death warrant, and you never meet him. You never see him. You'll never know him or her. And you're there with the top, and the top is knowingly and sympathetically agreeing with you. Someone down there 4 floors below, putting it on your country. We've seen that all too often over this last 2 years plus. It is people at a far lower level than you would ever imagine who write the mandates that pop out all of a sudden, and you got weeks, if you're lucky, months, to respond to them. Should we not have persons there who are able to forge links at an operational level with their people, so that we have an exchange of information, so that we could see what come in? Because what come in, you know, former Prime Minister England used to always say, what come in tall and short can see. But sometimes, unfortunately, to give the other side that isn't reflected in that statement, sometimes what come in neither tall nor short could see, but smart could see. Smart could see. And what this bill will permit and allow is for a mature and engaged Bahamas that has mature commitments, that is a global player, both in tourism and in financial services, to be at the table, to be connected, to be aware, to be able to see what is coming. Because if you get there early enough and you're aware early enough, you can have a say early enough to perhaps ameliorate, soften the blow, switch the dialogue. There's so many more things you could do if you can talk to people before the ink is dry on the paper, because once it's dry on the paper, Lord help you. This is the capacity and the potential of the capacity that such an agency will give. It is not the answer to every challenge. Other agencies have to do their part in tandem. But this is an agency that is looking only at the most serious threats to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and one threat is economic. That we are assailed on all sides. We know it. I deal with it every day as Attorney General. The Minister of Finance deals with it every day. The Cabinet every week. There's some other bill we got to bring forward to deal with this, and some other to deal with that, and this timeline to meet, and that timeline to meet. And we are always on our heels trying to catch up. A mature state doesn't have to go down that road. A mature state is able to set the watchman on the heights to see, to react, and to guard all things that we deem to be of vital national importance. Such an agency will be able, as we have done in the fight against trafficking in persons, and as we are continuing to do, because we got to go to Panama, we have a few other countries right on our border, and we need to have the same links with. This agency will be able to establish operational links with the CIA, with the Canadian version, with MI5, with all of the intelligence agencies around the world, so that it becomes a part of the network. See, the network exists, you know. The network exists. They speak to each other. But barring this agency, there's nobody in the Bahamas they could speak to. Because you say, well, they could talk to the Commissioner of Police. The Commissioner of Police is limited by the Police Act, focused on domestic law enforcement. The extent to which on the arms trafficking, particularly, and drug trafficking, there are already operational links with our friends in the United States, particularly the DEA, and with our DEU. There are operational links on the trafficking of persons, and we are fostering even more operational links. But those are peculiar to the particular crimes. But the universe is not just composed of drug traffickers and gun smugglers. If that was all we had to worry about in terms of crime, thank the Lord and say bless, amen. But the problem is, the world is full of evil. It is full of threats. And just as we have operational links in those that have most directly affected the Bahamas over the last 25 to 30 years, so now as we look at these emerging identified risk offenses, what make you think they don't affect the Bahamas? We just don't know. We have major sea routes traversing our country. You got the Florida Channel going down the west side of the country. You got the Northwest Providence Channel, the Northeast Providence Channel, major international shipping routes. The Crooked Island Passage is a major transshipment point through, leading to the Panama Canal. How you know what they got going through here? We have no way of knowing. And if we don't have intelligence linkages with intelligence agencies, because we don't have an intelligence agency, with other countries who do. They have nowhere to share it. We don't know what kind of nuclear and possibly explosive materials are transiting through the Bahamas. We don't know what is going on in terms of transiting through our financial system. And so there are levels of exchange of information that the Bahamas cannot be party to unless we form this agency. Unless we form this agency to enter that global network of intelligence-based communication to cover not just money laundering, not just drugs, not just guns, but the whole plethora of serious international crimes. That is why this bill is vitally necessary for a mature and responsible democracy. So what does this bill do? It creates the National Crime Intelligence Agency in Section 4. The agency is under the control of the director. Note, Section 4.2. The agency is under the control, not the minister, not under the control of the minister, not under the control of cabinet, not under the control of the prime minister, under the control of the director. And the functions of the agency are to collect information and intelligence to the extent only that is strictly necessary. So first of all, in Section 5.1a, they are not to decide, well, I want to see what on John's phone for fun, okay? Or I want to see who Henry talking to, or who he sweet, you know, that sort of thing is, these sweet things. No. It's only to collect intelligence that is strictly necessary, to analyze and retain information related to activities that may on reasonable grounds be suspected as constituting threats to the security of the Bahamas. Who John Sweetness is not a threat to the security of the Bahamas. The agency will not be interested in that. Okay? To coordinate intelligence gathering, to cooperate with and assist a law enforcement agency in gathering or provision of intelligence. A law enforcement agency, not the political directorate, not any politician, is agency to agency. So the police, the defense force, etc. What I say about poaching, wouldn't we love to have intelligence officers in the Dominican Republic who could speak Spanish, who could mingle with the population? Government will know, DR would know, but the people wouldn't know who they're looking at. Wouldn't we like to have someone who's able to tell us when the next major U.S. seafood retailing place, or this silver, that silver, this crab, that crab, whatever they call themselves, this lobster, the other lobster, hires and buys a dirty old stinking trawler and gives it to a bunch of unemployed Dominicans, fishermen, and say, here, y'all go in the Bahamas and rape their waters. Wouldn't you like to know when the next trawler set out, before it reaches Bahamian waters? Wouldn't you like to know that? So that when they cross the boundary and they're in our waters, they could be met by a welcoming committee before they could go down with the aqualung or send a vacuum cleaner down there to rake up everything on the bottom of the ocean. Wouldn't we like that? What are we afraid of? Are we afraid of defending our country, our economy, our fisheries? Are we afraid of that? We want to continue to be half blind and, if we buck up and miss and find them, wouldn't we like to have officers there who could let us know in advance? So when they come in, we could meet them, beat them, and send them back home without their boats, without their aqualungs, without their compressors, without our fish. Yes. What else? This is important. What I said about joining the network of intelligence-based organizations. Section 5, 1E, to establish channels of communication with overseas intelligence and security focal points for the promotion and exchange of information and intelligence. Just as occurs with the FIU, just as we're doing, trying to forge the links to combat the trafficking in persons, so at this higher level, just as our police do on a day-to-day basis with the OPAT, the DEU, and the DEA, and as they now have operational links with the FBI in terms of fighting against weapons smugglers, particularly emanating from the southern states of the United States, direct operational contact. Don't we want to have and be a part of that network? Yes, we do. And to provide the National Security Council with information relative to security matters or criminal activities. Criminal meaning those higher order serious offenses only. Notice it didn't say to provide the National Security Council with information relating to your business. How many friends you got, how many girlfriends you got, what your tax status is, where do you pay in your business license. No, this is not the area of security concern. Whether you're fudging the numbers on your VAT returns, this is not the area of the security concern. It is concerned with higher order crimes of the most serious sort only, and with threats to the Bahamas. Who can seriously sit there and tell me that I should be ashamed, or anyone on this side should be ashamed of trying to arm our country so as to be better able to defend its national interest against foreign assault? No, I will not be ashamed. And I will stand for all that is right. And this bill is desperately needed today in this modern Bahamas. Let's come to this question of the minister giving directions, which was latched on by persons who obviously did not read the full bill and even didn't read the full section. And that is unfortunate, because self-serving criticism that fails to properly state the case and properly present the position is unacceptable. And it does not reflect well on the critic, who should know better. They're intelligent people. It states in section 9(1), the minister may from time to time, by written notice, give to the director directions of a general or specific nature to be observed in relation to A, the performance by the agency of its functions or the exercise of its powers, and B, the exercise of the powers of the director. Subsection 3, the minister shall, as soon as practicable after giving a direction in writing now to the director, cause a copy of the direction to be given to the Prime Minister and the Review Committee. Who's the Review Committee? The Review Committee is Parliament. Given to Parliament. A committee composed of 3 government and 2 opposition members, comprising both houses of Parliament, not just the House of Assembly, the House and the Senate, given to the people's representatives. So yes, government and government members may say, oh, man, oh, man, wow. But the opposition say, we don't like it. And if they don't like it, what are they going to do with it? They can stand up and make a statement about it. They will make a statement and everybody will know. The whole point is, the minister can't get up one day on the wrong side of the bed, call a director, give some direction over the phone, or even face to face, because the director quite probably will say to him, put it in writing. Sir, put it in writing. And once it's in writing, it goes straight to the Prime Minister and to Parliament. What better protection can there be against ministerial overreach and abuse? Further, it is important to note that under Section 12, the director of the agency, every officer that is employed with regard to all matters of discipline and behavior, they're all subject and to those terms that are applicable to public service officers. Public service officers. What does that mean? You can't be fired willy-nilly if you're in the public service. I get some ministers calling me all the time. What I could do about this officer? He's such a terrible officer. Man, we need to do it. I say, well, you have to have documented evidence of misconduct. You can't go on an impression. And it has to be historic. You can't just come and concoct some writing today. So you have to mark poor attendance, poor service, bad attitude, all of that. If it's not documented, it doesn't exist in the public service. So you have no basis to write a show cause letter. Have your people, who are your directors or your office managers, properly police or regulate or work with their staff to correct any obvious abuses or failings. And if obvious abuses or failings continue, it must be documented. They must be given written warnings over time so that you have a record before you could reach a stage where you could issue some show cause letter to some mid-manager who is acting up. You have to have a record. Well, the same applies here. In other words, the director and his people can't be subjected to ministerial threats. It cannot happen. Now, the agency will, we hope, reach a level of maturity such that you will never know who the agents are anyhow. The only one who will know will be the director. Under Section 13, it's an offense to publish the identity of any agent. Okay, you need the permission of the director or the Prime Minister to publish anything in any newspaper that may tend to identify an agent. The director and his officers are peace officers. Now this is important. Once the statute is passed and they are, by Section 14, made into peace officers, that gives them all the powers of the police constable. The power to arrest without warrant for firearms offenses or drug smuggling offenses, the power to arrest for any crime committed in their sight, the power to have persons held in custody for up to 72 hours with a court order 48 hours usually. And they will have all of the powers of a police constable. Now, there is a review committee. And the review committee is a body, will be known as the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament. If you look in the rule book of the Senate, the rules of procedure, and the rules of procedure of the House of Assembly, you will see a list of standing committees. Public Accounts Committee, Rules and Credentials Committee, etc. Well, Parliament and this House will have to amend, meaning the House of Assembly and this House, all being one Parliament, will have to add to those lists this Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament as a standing committee of Parliament. And that committee will have the power to review the administration and spending of the agency, to generally review the performance of the agency, to review the observance of any directions given by the minister to the director, to conduct any investigation in relation to complaints made to the committee against the agency. It is an oversight committee, just as you know in the United States Congress particularly, but also in the British Parliament. They have a committee that provides oversight on the activities of MI5. And in fact, one of the things that they went after MI5 recently was over their lapses in failing to anticipate terrorist actions. And the biggest issue now is about a number of these stabbing incidents and everything, and what intelligence they knew about whom and why it was that they didn't know these persons were planning these things. And that is the role of an intelligence review committee, and it's set up by this statute. It puts the committee in the hands of Parliament as a whole. It gives the people's representatives, both opposition and government, direct oversight, just as the United States Congress has their intelligence committee in both the Senate and in Congress. And when issues important to the national security of the United States come up, those members of Congress as a whole, senators and congressmen, are fully briefed by the intelligence agencies about threats, emerging threats, actual threats to the national security of their country. Why don't we want the same right as parliamentarians to be able to know of what threatens the interests of our country, what steps are being taken to address them, and so we can have our say as parliamentarians. I speak we corporately, for members on this side of the table, that side of the table, this side of the house and that side of the other place. Why would we want to walk in the dark or continue to walk in the dark? Why would we not wish to have the maturity of parliamentary oversight into this law enforcement agency, intelligence gathering agency? Why do we insist on remaining in our national adolescence and fail to grab on and embrace the things of adulthood? When I became a man, I put away childish things. I put away the ignorance, the untested verve of adolescence. I put them away in the maturity of adult nationhood that is responsibly connected both with itself and with the wider world. This bill is yet another step in the reimagination of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. I just closing, give you an example of what I mean. I had an opening of an FATF Training Institute conference here today. They came out of South Korea. Not one was South Korean, but that is where the FATF had it located, maybe because of the importance of anti-terrorism and counter-terrorism financing in Southeast Asia, which is, of course, a roiling market. You know, a lot going on in Southeast Asia. So we invited them, and they agreed to come here. We have representatives of 9 other Caribbean countries who are here, regulatory agencies, law enforcement agencies, as well as our regulators and law enforcement people being trained by the FATF today. And I said to them, the Bahamas, we've moved mountains. We've achieved what no other country has achieved within the space of a year, to be re-rated on 13 points positively, to go from only 18 compliant with the FATF 40 recommendations to 30 compliant, to be right next to the same level as the United States, Canada, most of Europe, in only a year. I said the Bahamas is now engaged in the implementation side, and training is very important. But we don't only want to be trained. We want to develop such expertise that we can go out and train others. In fact, already a neighboring country that is under peril of ending up in the same process that we are getting out of, hopefully this year. We're trying, we're doing everything possible. But you never know, with these international agencies, because the goalposts keep shifting. But we have moved heaven and earth, and we're in a good position. We were approached. Please help us. Please help us. Because we need to do what you're doing. And I can tell you, Bahamian people, that a number of major international agencies have said in their meetings with members, be like the Bahamas. So yes, we want to go the next step. The Bahamas will set the standard and will train others and bring everybody up to the same high level that this country ascribes to and strives to attain and will attain. So in FATF matters, so in law enforcement, so in intelligence gathering. Let us put away the ignorance and blindness of youth, the follies of youth. Let us embrace what it is to be an adult and responsible nation. Madam President, I beg leave now to formally move for the second reading at the middle of this National Crime Intelligence Agency bills. If I may obtain a second. Oh, yes. Yes. And just as a programming note, I did obtain the consent of the leader of the other side, the opposition, last week, so that we would also today deal with the Police Staff Association bill. I'll just say briefly what that is about. What it does is, right now, from inception, the Police Staff Association has been forced to have elections every year, and it's a very complicated matter. So we've extended the period to 2 years. I would foreshadow that there are some other issues that rank and file officers have about some aspects of the bill, and I do undertake that we will have a thorough going review of the bill to strengthen it, to make it less bureaucratic, less cumbersome, and more serviceable to those wonderful police officers whom it is designed to serve. And we will consult with your membership in your association as we move forward in that process. Thank you, Madam President.
Is there a second? The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Renard Henfield.
Good morning, Madam President, Senators, fellow Bahamians. I begin as usual with giving thanks to the Almighty for life, family, health, safe travels, and the many opportunities He has afforded me. And I'll just share, Madam President, that just last week I had the opportunity to travel to Ottawa, Canada, and share the stage with Prime Minister Trudeau at a summit with over 2,000 registrants from around the globe. While there were over 100 countries represented, Madam President, the Bahamas was given the opportunity to take to the stage and draw international focus on our country. Every one of the over 100 countries that were present recognized that many, if not most, of the major social and national developments in their countries was as a result of politicians collaborating with civil society actors. And they came together with civil society to discuss ways to continue to work together for the betterment of their countries. Prime Minister Trudeau added just last week at the conference, Madam President, that while governments want their citizens to trust them, that governments must start trusting their citizens with information and start partnering with civil society. It is not enough to invite, as Prime Minister Trudeau said, civil society to dance, but governments must ask civil society to dance. The event wrapped up with a surprise guest, one of the founders of the OGP Summit, President Barack Obama. Madam President, permit me to publicly thank the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, Prime Minister, for excusing the Deputy Speaker of the House and myself during the budget communication to attend this summit. It was a priceless opportunity for both of us. I turn now, Madam President, to this National Crime Intelligence Agency bill, which has caused some contention. A reporter reached out to me last week and asked, what was my position? I indicated to the reporter then that I would indicate my position today. From the outset, I wish to say that I support the legislation to regulate the intelligence agency. For the life of me, Madam President, I don't understand how the PLP could be opposed to it. In fact, I won't pretend that this business of an intelligence agency is an F&M idea. The fact of the matter is this whole business of an intelligence agency is all the PLP. This intelligence agency is the PLP's creation. You see, Madam President, the PLP knows that eliciting emotions of fear, distrust, and cynicism is easier than engaging in productive and informed conversations on national issues. It's playing politics, I've learned. Playing politics. But let me share just a list of the countries, Madam President, with intelligence agencies, so as not to let the Bahamian people think that the Bahamas is embarking on something strange or new. Argentina established its National Intelligence Agency in 2015. Brazil established it in 1999. Canada established it in 1984. Chile, Colombia, France, Greece, India, Ireland, Jamaica, New Zealand, Peru, Sri Lanka, the UK, and the US all have intelligence agencies. So, Madam President, this Bahamian Intelligence Agency, as I said, was the brainchild of the last PLP administration. Let me verify that fact and refresh your memory. I'll take you as far back as the PLP's 2012 Charter for Governance at page 150. And I quote, "The PLP will revitalize the heads of national law enforcement agencies to ensure in sustained collaboration and information exchange between law enforcement agencies to counter local and international crime. The body will include the Commissioner of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Commodore of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, the Comptroller of Customs, Director of Immigration, and Superintendent of Prisons." The Charter of Governance goes on, Madam President, with this one-liner. The PLP is committed to the formation of a national intelligence agency comprising all law enforcement departments to address all categories of major breaches, crimes in our jurisdiction. There you have it, Madam President. Since 2012, the PLP had warned us that they were going to form an intelligence agency. We as a people just expected them to do it in a democratic, transparent, and accountable way. You know, by an act of parliament would have been nice and customary. But instead, under the Christie Davis administration, no legislation was brought and passed in 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016, or even in 2017. For any member of the PLP to stand and speak against this intelligence agency would be nothing more than playing politics, Madam President. In one of my first addresses in the Senate, I warned that the PLP would continue to play politics. You know, Madam President, they had a draft intelligence agency bill, you know. At least that's what they claimed. They had a draft for everything that has come before the Parliament since the F&M has won. Just 2 weeks ago, they said they had a draft for the road traffic amendments. Senator Thompson coined them the "we was gonna party." We was gonna. If memory serves me right, Madam President, they were late presenting this Charter of Governance in 2012. The F&M manifesto was released. Even the DNA 20-page manifesto was released before the PLP's Charter for Governance. It was only after Dr. Minnis called the PLP out in May of 2014 for operating an intelligence agency without any legislative framework. Mind you, this is 2014. Their Charter for Governance was in 2012, and nothing had been brought before the Parliament. But the agency was formed and operating. The director was being paid some $70,000 per year of our tax dollars for an agency that ought not to have been in existence. Madam President, only after Dr. Minnis called the PLP out in May of 2014 for operating an intelligence agency without any legislative framework, then Senator Bell and the Minister of National Security said that the intelligence legislation would be tabled by the end of 2014. Another PLP promise, never to materialize. A friend of mine and PLP supporter has this joke, Madam President, when he shares, that he says he used to believe in the new PLP and the bridge to the future, but then he was promised that if re-elected, they'd make Crooked Island straight, Long Island shorter. They would create a land register, stop banks from repossessing Bahamian homes. They would provide land for a labor college to be constructed. They would implement a degree of local government in New Providence, and that they would pass laws for a national intelligence agency. Unfortunately, Madam President, during 2012 and 2017, they didn't do any of those things, or all of the things they promised in their Charter of Governance. But they did introduce an intelligence agency without ever bringing even a draft before the Parliament or Bahamian public for consultation. Madam President, they promised a lot, but only surprised us with VAT, Trinidad Carnival in the Bahamas, the legalizing of the numbers industry, and an unregulated intelligence agency. Madam President, in December 2014, on this issue of intelligence agency, the Minister of National Security told the press that the bill for the intelligence agency would be tabled before Parliament broke for the holidays. Another PLP promise that never materialized. On February 6, 2016, the minister told reporters that a paper for cabinet would be put in next week and the bill tabled after. Another PLP promise on this intelligence agency that never materialized. See, Madam President, PLP politics is an interesting phenomenon. I won't let them play politics today on their creation, though. You are the father, own up to it, don't deny your child. It was reported in the news in May that the opposition leader said, the enabling legislation, and this is the words of their leader, the enabling legislation under consideration by the last PLP cabinet blurred the lines between a spy agency and existing law enforcement agencies. Let me read that again. The leader of the opposition said just in May of this year that the enabling legislation under consideration by the last PLP cabinet blurred the lines between a spy agency and the existing law enforcement agencies. Apart from changing the name of the bill and deleting 3 sections relating to law enforcement and empowering the Minister of National Security to direct as opposed to offering general policy guidelines to the agency, the bill that was passed on Wednesday night is essentially the same. What the Bahamian people and the Parliament just learned is that this bill, according to the outgoing leader of the PLP, is essentially the same as what the then Minister of National Security kept promising to bring to Parliament. The PLP created the agency and had it operate without any legislation. Now the Minister administration brings forth the legislation, and there's this fake outrage by some. They are playing politics, Madam President. Is the bill perfect? No, it isn't. Is there at least now a bill before Parliament that regulates the PLP's intelligence agency? Yes. The fact of the matter is this. Thanks to Prime Minister Minnis, there is finally a legislative authority for the intelligence agency to operate, and it is subject to bipartisan parliamentary oversight. Now that it's in the public domain, Madam President, and once enacted, it can be amended and fortified as need be, as the entity will be publicly scrutinized and reviewed by our Parliament. Will the government of the day be the only entity aware of the investigations and directions given to this agency? Fact of the matter is, Madam President, that the Prime Minister Minnis, has seen to it that the leader of the opposition, Senator Darville, is he here today? The leader of the opposition, and I want Senator Darville to hear this, the leader of the opposition will be provided with unedited copies of any general or specific directions given by the Minister of National Security to the Director of the Intelligence Agency. I am using the phrase, the fact of the matter is today, Madam President, because I've heard another use it, but never follow it up with any facts, just opinions. So when I use the phrase, the fact of the matter is, I can direct you to that verifiable fact in the legislation before us. It's not just my opinion disguised as a fact. Madam President, quis custodiet ipsos custodes. Who will guard the gods? While the Christie Davis PLP administration operated the intelligence agency, there was no review body and no complaints body. The fact of the matter is this: under the PLP, there was no oversight whatsoever, because there was no legislation and no authority for its establishment and operation. Madam President, some have asked, will there be any oversight of this intelligence agency now that the minister administration is the government today? And the fact of the matter is this: the minister administration is legislating the existence, mandate, and function of the intelligence agency, and it has gone further to clearly legislate and introduce a bipartisan oversight body for the agency, so that no government in the future can use this legislation or the agency to infringe upon the rights of our people. At sections 15 and 16 of the bill, it reads, there is to be a body known as the Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament, hereinafter referred to as the Review Committee, which shall have responsibility for 1, reviewing the administration and expenditure of the agency, reviewing generally the performance of the agency, of its duties and functions, reviewing the observance of any directions given by the minister to the director pursuant to Section 9, conducting any investigation in relation to complaints made to the committee in accordance with Section 19. Section 16, Madam President, speaks to the appointment and eligibility of members to the review committee, which, as the leader of government business said earlier, will be a joint committee of both houses of Parliament, the House of Assembly and the Senate, with the Prime Minister recommending 5 members, 3 from the House and 2 from the Senate, and the leader of the opposition recommending 1 member from the House of Assembly and 1 member from the Senate. I would proffer that the selected parliamentarians on both sides should have some legal or law enforcement background, as it would prove beneficial to the sphere of work of the Committee on Intelligence Agency. You know, every time I make a presentation, the PLP pays so much attention. Constantly trying to disrupt every phrase, every sentence. And I appreciate their attention, Madam President. But I refuse to let them play politics on this issue today.
No politics.
One of the many things I like about this bill, Madam President, is the fact that I said, and I will repeat, I support the bill. And I support any legislation to keep the country and our people safe. One of the many things I like, Madam President, is the fact that by law, pursuant to Section 18, the Review Committee will have to report to Parliament on the discharge of its functions and include a statement as to whether any matter has been excluded at the request of the Prime Minister. This is a matter of transparency, Madam President, and ensuring that the Prime Minister of the day can't hide anything from the people. Madam President, a committee of our Parliament is about to have some teeth. You see, Madam President, pursuant to this bill, the Review Committee, comprised of both government and opposition parliamentarians, has investigative powers It can receive complaints with respect to the conduct of the intelligence agency and its agents. It can summon persons, even the director of the agency, and compel them to give oral and written evidence and to produce documents. This is a matter of accountability and ensuring that the agency nor the public believe that the agency is above the law or untouchable. As I've said in this place before, acts of parliament are living documents that can be and most certainly will be strengthened as Parliament progresses and carries out its parliamentary oversight. Again, is the bill perfect? I'm yet to see one passed in my lifetime that was. Is the process of creating the legal framework for this intelligence agency a step in the right direction? Most certainly. Is the bipartisan oversight committee an indication of the maturity and transparency of the Minutes administration? Most certainly, Madam President. In due course, Madam President, we may want to further enhance the accountability and transparency measures by adding to the review committee an independent, non-parliamentary member in the person of a Supreme Court justice appointed by the Chief Justice. In due course, we may want to include a suitable budget, staffing, and venue for the review committee to ensure their independence and ability to be effective. In closing, Madam President, while the PLP created this intelligence agency creature during their last administration and let it function without any legislation, transparency, accountability, or watchdog with the exclusion of the opposition, the Minutes administration in just 2 years has done what the PLP failed or refused to do with 5. The Minutes administration is poised, Madam President, to enact the intelligence agency legislation with a bipartisan review committee with transparency and accountability at the core. This is progress, and this is transformative leadership. Finally, Madam President, permit me to commend Justice Ruth Bodavel on her ascent to the bench, which was long overdue. She has served the legal community and public with distinction. She is knowledgeable in law and justice, and it's beyond deserving. I know the PLP will join me in congratulating her as I congratulate the 2 attorneys from Davis & Co. on their ascent to the bench during the Christie Davis administration. Madam President, notwithstanding the considerations I have shared to further enhance the oversight in due course, I support these efforts to protect our citizenry and country, so I proudly second the bill to provide for and regulate the intelligence agency. May God continue to bless the government and people of the Bahamas.
Thank you, Senator. It has been moved and seconded that a bill for an act to establish a body to be known as the National Crime Intelligence Agency to provide for its functions, powers, organization, and management and for connected purposes. As many. Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Jo Beth Colby Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. As always, I'm grateful to God for the opportunity to stand and represent for the Bahamian people in this place. Madam President, I stand today with great trepidation about this National Crime Intelligence Agency bill before us. And I join the chorus of the opposition in the other place that this is indeed a dangerous bill in its present form. And just as the Christie administration took a step back before tabling to address some of the public concerns and to correct the blurred lines between a spy agency and the existing law enforcement agencies, this F&M government should have done the same. However, Madam President, this bill, in my view, as it is presently drafted, is ripe for harmful and mischievous abuse. Granting this overarching power to the Minister of National Security when at the same time trying to convince the Bahamian people that this is an independent agency free from any influences is a clear oxymoron and very hypocritical. The same F&M administration that speaks so much about being transparent, accountable, and effective is half-stepping with this NCIA bill before us today. We have been here before. There's already a mistrust amongst the Bahamian people and this administration. It is no secret that many in the public feel that the Minnis administration word is not their bond because they increased taxes on the people. But while in opposition, they said that was a lazy way of governing, to tax the people. Now, after having rallied up the Bahamian people, after marching in the streets yelling, "Kill the bill," members in this place and the other place on the governing side are now chanting, "Pass the bill," while tabling and swiftly passing in the House without public consultation the very same bill. Madam President, the current bill, the National Crime Intelligence Agency bill, is the same one that was under consideration by Christie, which they outrightly oppose. Note that I said under consideration, not passed, but considered and parked for further consultation and review. Madam President, we have seen this F&M government operate and switch their talks many times, including my friend Senator Henfield, who is so jovial today, speaking while I speak. So where there is assurance that the powers in this bill where is the assurance that the powers in this bill will be used responsibly and not abused? Where is the assurance that persons will have recourse if they felt their privacy was invaded for false reasons or the invasion was unwarranted? As far as the public is concerned, any one of us could be possibly suspected as constituting a threat to the people and the security of the Bahamas. Any one of us could be deemed not to be law-abiding persons. And Madam President, I remind members in this place and the other place that their appointments or elections to their present post is not indefinite. So, be careful what you accept and condone F&Ms, because it may be the very same sort of injustice you are pushing and encouraging that comes back to bite you. Madam President, this bill does not provide any sort of protection whatsoever from the agency trampling a person's constitutional rights to privacy and due process under the supervision of our courts. Madam President, the Minister of National Security in his contribution noted that there will be no interference of the agency.
President.
Excuse me, Senator.
I'm not yielding. You can speak after I'm done.
No, excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. What is the point of order? The chair recognizes Senator the Honorable.
Members made a false statement. It is a misleading and untrue statement. The bill clearly provides for parliamentary oversight to do all of the things that she says are not guaranteed in the bill. The member ought not to mislead the public with her florid rhetoric, okay, because she's making an assertion. She's making an assertion of fact. She is asserting as a matter of fact that the bill has no protections. That is absolutely untrue. She may not like the level, she may have some issue, but the bill does offer protections. The most fundamental being that there's a parliamentary review committee, that any person who feels that they have been subjected to an unlawful inquiry, they can go direct to that committee and make a complaint. And that committee is bound by the law to investigate the same. So to stand in this place and to say that there is no protection is patently false. It is nothing but the crudest rhetoric, and that is unseemly in this place for a legally trained and intelligent senator to make such an untrue statement.
Let's not go there.
And she needs to withdraw it, Madam President.
Senator, you can have a seat. Thank you. Senator, I know in reading the bill and hearing what others have said in terms of oversight Would you care to really withdraw what you said? Or are you now saying...
that I feel that the level of protection is not strong enough.
Okay,
and
that's
there
your...
should be some further consideration. I move on now. Madam President, the Minister of National Security, in his contribution, noted that there will be no interference of the agency, stating controls have been considered to not allow the abuse of powers or political interference, meaning that the director of the agency would be acting independent. But Section 9 of the bill provides for the director to be subject to the directions of the Minister of National Security of a general or specific nature to be observed with relation to the performance by the agency of its functions or the exercise of powers. However, Madam President, the draft being considered by the Christie administration only allowed for the Minister of National Security to give guidelines, similar to guidance notes, not directives, but notes for the director to either take into consideration or not. But it wasn't of the nature and overarching power that this bill is granting. So, Madam President, I query, what does this Minister administration define as independent? Does the Minister of National Security mean the director of the NCIA agency will have the same independence that the DPP has? Though the Attorney General can give directives related to national security, I query this, Madam President, because just a few months ago, we saw the Attorney General in the press declaring that there will be an appeal of a recent trial immediately following the ruling of the magistrate. The Attorney General made the pronouncement before any form of communication came from the office of the DPP. Madam President, I would like to know if that is the same form of independence the director of the NCIA will enjoy. See, Madam President, actions and actions alone is how this F&M government will be judged. Madam President, another concern of mine is that the NCIA bill under Section 28(4)(e) gives the agency the authority to use any force as is necessary and reasonable to achieve the objectives of a search warrant. Madam President, why is the authority for the use of force left for the agency itself to define what is reasonable? Are they now judge and
Madam
jury?
President, point of order, please.
There's a point of order, Senator. Would you take your seat?
Another untrue
Now,
statement.
Ms. Senator, could you please just indicate
Okay.
the point of order?
Yes, the point of order is that in my statement I was very careful and clear on this matter, that I was advised of the intended appeal by the Director of Public Prosecutions. I did not instruct the DPP. The DPP informed me of his intention to appeal, and I informed the public. Oh, and thankfully that appeal was resoundingly won under the leadership, direct leadership in court of the Director of Public Prosecutions, who personally conducted the legal arguments and won resoundingly just last week.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that point of order. Senator, you may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, why is the authority for the use of force left for the agency itself to define what is reasonable? Are they now judge and jury to how they can operate and interrogate persons in society? Shouldn't there be some operational guidelines for the agency officers? Madam President, there will be an obvious concern by the public of the potential abuse of power that may result from this sort of allowance as we see it. The agency operates in secret. How they investigate is secret. When they investigate is secret. Who they investigate is secret. So where is the assurance that the public, there will be no abuse to the public? In addition, Madam President, at clause, the same way PAC is not abused or ignored, anyways, I move further. In addition, Madam President, at clause 27, the legislation makes it against the law to reveal the identities of the NCIA agents outside of the director and his deputy. But the agent's employees are allowed to enter an aircraft or vessel to request specific documentation. And if the operator refuses to answer, produce the documents, or gives misleading information, they are committing a summary offense and subject to a fine of $5,000, imprisonment of 5 years, or both. However, I'm trying to determine what will be the identification mark for these officers of the agency. Will it be a uniform, a badge, a symbol that gives the public the assurance that this is a legitimate employee of the NCIA so that they can act accordingly? Madam President, how will we, the public, be able to identify when we are being questioned legitimately by an agent of the NCIA when their identities will not be disclosed? The FBA have their badge and uniform that says FBI have their badge and uniform that says FBI. Are we going to have 50 to 100, whatever the number of employees of the NCIA office walking around undercover and doing field work? In my opinion, this can lead to many more security concerns, some that we are possibly not thinking of right now. Thank you, Madam Vice President. I know some on the governance side in this place are probably sitting and wondering, well, why now is it a problem when most of these sections and clauses was in the original draft being considered by the Christie administration? I say to them, there's a reason the former Christie administration parked this bill, because many of these clauses were seen to be problematic and unworkable. And many of these same persons contributing today were the ones cheering on kill the bill. Now they're saying pass the bill. They marched against it. They fought us on it. They were vehemently opposed and wanted nothing to do with this bill. However, today we have a bill that is essentially worse with the powers afforded to the Minister of National Security, and I cry shame on UFNMs. These clauses, among others, makes the bill unworkable and presented enough reason for the former Christie administration to park the same bill and not advance it. So I encourage the FNM in this place to do the same. Do not pass this bill. Madam Vice President, today I am yelling to the FNMs in this place. Park this bill. I do not support. I am. Excellent.
As many, the chair recognizes Senator.
I'm trying to follow you. I advanced like Senator Mitchell, but I'll get there one day. Madam President, thank you so much for recognizing me today in this honorable house. Before I give my contribution, I want to again thank the Father above for his mercies, for allowing me to see another day and to be here in this honorable place to serve the Bahamian people and to speak on behalf of them. Also, I would like to thank the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Hubert Minnis, for affording me this opportunity to serve in the capacity as an honorable senator and to be a voice for the common man. Madam President, today we are debating the National Crime Intelligence Bill. Let me start off by saying that in my view, that this bill is a good bill with good intentions. After perusing it, it seeks to snuff out the troublemakers, bad-minded and wicked intent persons who seek to continue to wreak havoc on a peaceful country by bringing in devices that are alien to our traditional peaceful way of living, association, and socializing within our country. My great-granddaddy used to used to say that in troubled times, strong and sensible decisions are needed. So I'll say it again. In troubled times, strong and sensible decisions are needed. Madam President, in an ever-changing world, criminal elements seek to wreak havoc on nations, all in the name of money, power, and status. These elements are becoming major problems to powerful countries who deal with threats on a daily and now in our developing little nation. This criminal element has found a way to manipulate our people, especially our young people, into believing that this is the way to live, to get rich, get money, or to get power. Bahamians see every day on the international news how first world countries are fighting this battle, with persons reaping havoc on their streets, forcing governments to do what my great-granddaddy taught me, and that is, in serious times, strong and sensible decisions are needed to protect the country, its visitors, and most importantly, its people from the threats to the security of this nation. Madam President, speaking of threats to a nation, and in this case, our nation, our country, the Bahamas, in part one of this bill, it speaks to this primary issue. This part of the bill aims to gather intelligence in the event of persons living here or abroad having plans to carry out some type of terrorism elements on our country that can have forever damaging effects that cannot be reversed. We see what happened in the Middle East every day. We saw what happened in New Zealand, where a man who didn't like a particular religion decided to take matters into his own hands by plotting quietly, but targeting different mosques, purchasing weapons at that time which were legal, which were powerful weapons, and used them on individuals ranging from the cradle to the elderly. The horrific act was also live streamed on Facebook, and it sent shockwaves around the world because New Zealand, with its 4.4 plus million population, are known to be a very peaceful set of people. The same is said about the Bahamas every day, not just by Bahamians, but by the world, that we are a kind and peaceful people. Another example is the situation that happened in the United States of America when it was confirmed that another country meddled in the U.S. elections to convince people into voting for a particular candidate and leaking out confidential documents, and the list goes on. Now, some may say, well, what that has to do with the Bahamas? My concern is that since it was done on a powerful country, which is next door to us, then what makes you think that they won't try to do it to our little developing country? Just to have, let's say, political influence. My fellow Bahamians, this will be devastating to our sovereignty as a nation. Madam President, as a young Bahamian, another concern I have is the types of protests I see taking place next door to us, even in certain countries around the world. Now, while I am a supporter of individuals organizing a friendly, peaceful, mature marches, I have grave concern when I see individuals in the Bahamas organizing marches, protests, with the so-called intent to voice displeasure on an issue, on national issues, but are secretly using and manipulating people to actually engage in creating havoc by seeking to achieve a political, religious, or ideological objective directed towards or in support to undermine, convert lawful acts, destroy, or even to overthrow by violence within the Bahamas. Fellow Bahamians, we must protect the Bahamas at all costs. Madam President, this agency will be under the control of the director and will also consist of Madam President, this agency will be under the control of the director and will also consist of the office of the director and its employees. The agency will be lawfully responsible for collecting information and intelligence by lawful investigations or otherwise to the extent that is strictly necessary for the overall national security. The agency will also be responsible for establishing a network with all law enforcement agencies in establishing or provisions of intelligence. The agency will also be responsible for establishing channels of communications with overseas intelligence and focal points to exchange information for the safety of our citizens, tourists, and most importantly, the country. My fellow Bahamians, we are currently wondering where these guns are coming from that has surprisingly found itself onto our shores. While some may say they come from the north, the truth is we cannot put our finger on it until the agency is commissioned to do its duty, network with fellow agencies, and accurately trace where exactly it is coming from. And once we have that in place, then we can work with leaders from that pinpoint in combating this vexing problem that has no home on our sovereign shores. Madam President, I know that there are some who are concerned about the powers this agency will have once enacted by law. There are also some who are concerned if the agency will be a power to its own self with no accountability. I want to rest assured to the Bahamian people that this agency will have proper, transparent checks and balances to ensure that no ill intention will be the order of the day. This agency will have to write to the minister seeking approval to enter a written agreement with one, any department, two, the Royal Bahamas Police Force or the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, three, the Bahamas Customs Department or the Department of Immigration, authorizing this agency to provide security assessments and including a joint coordination by the agency with all lawful enforcement agencies of the measures and strategies being used to assembly of the intelligence by them, particularly with respect to the offenses or categories of offenses already specified. Now, as it relates to the defense of the Bahamas or conduct of international affairs, this agency will be responsible in assisting the minister responsible and also the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the gathering of intelligence relating to capabilities, intention of the foreign state powers or group of foreign states or foreign power. My fellow Bahamians, as I said earlier, the world is changing every day, and criminal elements are determined to spread their tentacles to even developing nations like ours in an attempt to cement their presence, either by weak individuals who will sell out their birthright for a bowl of porridge, or instead, the foreign element themselves will make attempts to create havoc on our sovereign nation. We must not tolerate or encourage this cracking the door of foolishness to make its way and lay in bed with us. We must protect the Bahamas with precise data and intelligence. Madam President, in Part 8 of the bill, it speaks about the functions of the director. From glossing through this bill, it states that the director will ensure that the agency is limited and not unlimited, as falsely said by the opposition, but limited to what is necessary for the purposes of the discharge of its functions, keeping free from any influences or considerations not relevant to its function, such as interest from political, community, civil, or any other matters other than its primary discharge. At the same time, this agency must, by this legislation, maintain proper doc records relating to the work of this agency. Now, according to Section 9 of this bill, the director may be given directions time to time. For example, vary or replace any directions as referred in Section 1 of the bill. These changes can only be done in writing to the director and not just by verbal communication as practiced over and over and over by those opposite, but after the written communication is given, the Prime Minister and the review committee will also be copied or CC'd to the letter. Lastly, as stitched in the bill, the minister shall not may, but shall, and I know those opposite don't like that word, shall, but again, shall in accordance with agreements made between the Prime Minister and the opposition leader, make available to the leader of the opposition an unedited copy of any general specific directions given under subsection 1. My fellow Bahamians, we are ensuring that the opposition, who is constitutionally a part of the makeup of the government, will be legally updated with any changes to this agency. This is what transparency is all about. This is transparency at its best. My colleagues, we ain't just talking it, we are doing it. Madam President, a review committee, aka the Intelligence Security Committee, will be appointed and consist of 7 in total members on the panel, with 5 coming from the House of Assembly and 2 coming from the Senate. Madam President, this committee will be responsible in reviewing the performance, duties, observance of any directions given by the Minister, administration, and expenditure of this agency's investigations in relation to complaints made to the committee in accordance with Section 19. For example, a complaint being made to the director by any citizen on a matter, and if the letter has not been answered within a period of time, and once the committee is satisfied that these complaints are not politically motivated, tribal, by folks with an agenda, frivolous, or even out of emotions or in bad faith, the committee will ensure that the wheels of accountability are moving in the cycle it should. In Section 22 of the bill, it speaks about the powers of the committee to summon and enforce the appearance of persons before the committee and given oral and written evidence on oath, and to produce such documents and the things the committee deems vital to the full investigation and consideration of the complaint. This, in my view, is following the same pattern as how the courts does their sittings. And in Section 24, the committee, after completion of hearing the testimonies as well as reviewing the written evidence, would then be expected to provide the minister and the director with a report containing the findings of the investigations and may make recommendations that the committee considers applicable. The minister, in his position, may, in the public interest, authorize the publications of such report or partially redacted on the grounds of national security. This practice is also done in other countries like the UK, Italy, Australia, Canada, and our next door neighbor, the United States of America, just to name a few. Madam President, in Section 27, it speaks about the general powers of search and seizure. I have no issue with this because this, in my view, is in the name of national security. If it comes to the attention of the agency through its intelligence confirming a possible threat, the agent, once given written authorization from the director, that agent or employee can ask an operator of an aircraft, vessel, its cargo, crew, passengers, stores, voyage that are under the control of the operator. In a matter like this, the agent can request documents from a person or persons who are being questioned, and after such request, individuals are required to produce and answer questions as stated in subsection 1 of the bill. Now, if the agent is given false information, misleading response, or false documentation, the individual will be in direct violation of the bill and is punishable on a rapid conviction to a fine not exceeding $5,000 or a term imprisonment not exceeding 5 years or even both. I know members of opposition have expressed that they believe that the penalties are a bit too harsh, but in my estimate, nothing is harsh when it comes to protecting the borders of our country, its guests, and its people. The agency will also be allowed to apply for search warrants after requesting it by writing to the magistrate. Once the warrant is granted to the agent or the team of the agents, they will have the power to execute every search warrant that was granted. They will also be allowed to search anything, for example, entering a particular place or places for the purpose of finding records or other things relevant to such security threat, and for the purpose opening any safe box, drawer, parcel, or other containers, and there is a reasonable cause to believe that such records, electronic devices, or any nature of things may be found. Now, like in any other country, there are persons who will be difficult, who may want to put up a fight to try obstruct the duties mandated of the agent, while the agent or agents are also being given authority to use any force as it's necessary and reasonable to achieve the objectives of the warrant. In subsection 2 and subsection 30, the agency will have the authority to seize postal articles in obtaining intelligence relevant to the security. Madam President, what befuddles me is that this agency is the creation, the baby of the opposition, and now they want to kill it. Something is either wrong with my memory or something is clearly wrong with the opposition, whose intent is to play politics at the expense of the Bahamian people. In 2012, months after coming to office, the PLP created the NIA with no mandate, no legislation, no policy, or framework to guide its activities. The PLP government, in my view, was engaged in an illegal entity operating on Bahamian soil using hard-earned taxpayers' money, which was never legitimately authorized to use. The agency was a secret until the FM discovered it and exposed the truth to the Bahamian people. The agency was operating illegally and was given a budget, a director, staff, building, car, and the list goes on. Now, mind you, despite this being approved by the entire PLP cabinet without some MPs knowing, it is quite mind-blowing and still raises concerns of the style of governance from the PLP. My fellow Bahamians, history has shown over and over and over that when it comes to transparency, accountability, and respect for the rule of law, the PLP are genuinely contagious to it. Madam President, the FNM, after coming to office, kept its pledge to the Bahamian people and shut down that illegal agency and pledged to bring transparent legislation first after being promised on multiple occasions. After being promised multiple occasions by those opposite to bring legislation to make it legal. Again, we ain't just talking it. We are doing it. Now, what's so mind-boggling is that in January of 2018, the United States passed a surveillance law allowing their agencies to spy on other countries and work with fellow agencies around the world to gather intelligence and data to protect their borders from any imminent attack or smuggled items that illegally enter their country. You're right, because I vividly recall that the PLP calling a press conference with all its MPs and senators, well, 4 of them right there, calling for the Bahamas National Intelligence Agency to be reinstated and its mandate made clear.
What? They called for this?
They called for this at the press conference. All 4 of them was there. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I said to myself, okay.
Senator, please direct your comments to the chair.
I said to myself, okay, it seems like the opposition may be ready to walk that transparent road with the FNM and the main people after calling for clear legislation. As time passed by, the FM did that. We did what we intended to do, and that is bring a clear and transparent bill on the illegal agency that you created. Madam President, the response that I am now hearing from the opposition, even today, has left me floored. As I said earlier, they created this agency. They illegally established this agency. They illegally funded this agency using taxpayers' money. They illegally appointed people to operate this this agency, they illegally use this agency to snoop in on all Bahamians and like I was saying, Madam President, they use this agency to snoop in on Bahamian privacy, and they use illegal agency for their personal agenda. But now,
Excuse me, could you please indicate the point of order?
Yeah.
Senator Moss, would you take the chair?
Yes. Madam President, I rise on a point of order. The member is absolutely misleading this House and the Bahamian people. He made some statements that the Progressive Liberal Party used this so-called agency to spy on ordinary people. This is absolutely untrue, and we're asking him to please immediately withdraw that statement.
Thank you, Senator.
in the best interest
Senator
of
Moss.
Bahamian people.
Senator Moss, would you like to rephrase your comment there, please?
No.
I heard the AG.
No.
What are you doing,
Madam President. Madam President.
I'm going to yield to the AG.
Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Carl Bethel.
The Progressive Liberal Party, howsoever represented, and in this place, cannot fix their mouth. I am. Until they explain.
Excuse me,
where the
senators.
stolen emails that ended up in Jerome Fitzgerald's hand.
Okay,
on the
Senator.
floor of the House of Assembly came from.
Senator.
Come on.
Okay, 1 minute, please. Sit.
Don't come with that.
Now, excuse me, senators, please, please hold on. Now, Senator Moss, there was a point of order, and I would give you an opportunity to rephrase what you said. As far as Senator Bethel is concerned, I don't know what your point of order was, but that's not where we're going today. So Senator Moss, let's go back to the point of order that on hand, and let's try and decide how we're going to rephrase that comment.
Madam President, just for public record, it is of my opinion
Thank you.
what was being done.
Thank you. And you may move on now from that
I'm
point.
very sure, Madam President, that the Bahamas will join me in that opinion.
You may now move on, please,
Thank you,
Senator.
Madam President. Like I said, like I was saying, Madam President, as I said earlier, they created this agency. They illegally established this agency. They illegally funded this agency using taxpayers' money. They illegally appointed people to operate this agency.
He's on his opinion.
Hold on, Senator. Senator.
On a point.
Senator, 1 second. Senator, could you sit? What is the point of order, Senator Mitchell?
Is he's made these assertions continuously that this agency that he said was created was illegally funded and exercised illegal powers. He has no evidence that is correct, and it is in fact false. It is false.
Thank you. Hold on.
On a point of law.
No.
Please, on a point of law, Madam President.
Senator,
No, this is
Senator,
not intended
please.
to be contentious.
Okay.
There is no lawful right for a non-existent agency to exercise intelligence gathering powers without a specific legal remit from the Parliament in form of a bill. There was no, please. No, please. The former government put in a budget head for the NIA, which did not exist in law. It was performing, to the extent that it performed, intelligence gathering operations illegally. Thank you.
No, sir. No, sir.
No, now,
Madam President,
just have a seat, please. Just 1 second. Excuse me. Now, I'm not going to have this today. Now, I've allowed some comments, but this is what we're going to do. Senator Moss, if this is your opinion, I would wish that your comments are prefaced by, "It is my opinion." Okay? Now, Senator Moss,
Yes, sir.
please be guided. Senator Mitchell.
Yes, sorry, madam. I want to say this, right? It is possible in our system for things to be established administratively. The government has the authority to do that at any time.
No extrajudicial or extra legal powers were exercised by the Progressive Liberal Party government with regard to this matter. None. The agencies that were involved in this administrative unit were exercising powers which they had in law. They never went outside those powers. So this is an absolute fiction.
Thank you, Senator. As I continue, Senator Moss, please be guided by your comments. And any other answering of this presentation will be done at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam President. As I said earlier, it's surprising that last year the PLP, on the heels of legislation being passed by the United States of America, PLP went on public record having a press conference with the 4 MPs and the 4 senators to our president, demanding that the government bring legislation, clear legislation for the NIA to come to life. And now that we are doing it, the PLP now makes a backflip, somersault, whatever you want to call it, and it's now making it clear that they are voting against it after, like I said, after last year's call for the agency to be active. So now you want to kill the baby that you created? The agency for you at the time was the best thing since sliced bread, Senator Mitchell. It was the best thing since sliced bread. It is truly...
I ask you to direct your comments to the chair.
Madam President, my apologies. I'm speaking to the president. Yeah. The PLP, in my view, is displaying another sign of selective amnesia. The highest level of hypocrisy. The highest level of hypocrisy. Since the PLP said that they care for the people, I would like for them to answer why the former PLP cabinet of the Bahamas, which Hannah, Martin, Davis, Mitchell, and Darwin were a part of, agreed to accept $1.2 million from a foreign power to purchase military equipment, including armored vehicles, anti-riot gear, anti-riot grenade launchers, and tear gas grenades, among other things. Just to show you how bad they are from suffering from selective amnesia, a PLP MP went on social media claiming that the FNM government just passed a law placing civil disobedience on a march without permit designed to bring down a government as a threat to security, potentially invoking draconian powers of the National Crime Intelligence Agency. Black Tuesday would be a threat to security. This is what your colleague said on social media. But if the record be told and the truth be told, I think we have to take this time to remind you guys, wasn't this the same individual who sat in cabinet, along with you two, agreed to the NIA being established, ran and funded illegally, to also agree to accepting let me finish. Agreed to accept $1.2 million from a foreign power to buy 33 different types of items, which include 2 armored vehicles for the Defense Force, which we saw the other day on the parade, 2 38 automatic anti-grenade launchers, 10,038 smoke tear gas grenades, anti-riot gear sets, and portable low-light level night vision goggles, 16 total. Now, the FNM didn't buy or order these things. You all did. You all did. And the question is, how can you blame the FNM for decisions that you've made? And the decision to suppress those who dare march against you. As a matter of fact,
Senators, please, we have someone on the floor, and please again direct your comments to me.
As a matter of fact, all I want to know is who you all going to use them on. My fellow Bahamians, this is the lies and hypocrisy the PLP display on a daily by peddling through their speeches, meetings, the media, and the list, social media, and the list goes on. Truth be told, my fellow Bahamians, the FNM government is only cleaning up the PLP mess. And and that is turning a rogue agency which was founded on everything illegal, operate illegally, funded illegally, in my opinion, to now be legal and have legislation. I did say, in my opinion, Madam President, for the record, I did say, in my opinion, and to now the Effingham government is now making
Senator,
legal,
please.
having legislation and placing to govern it, in addition to create a review committee to keep an eye on them, ensuring that they don't operate outside the legal wall. Madam President, I can go on and on more about this bill, but I will.
No, that's it. Now, please. Now, I've allowed the point of order. You were satisfied with the opinion. Let's go and continue now. Come on. Now, let's just stop it.
Thank you again, Madam President. As I said again, I could go on more and more about this bill, but I will allow my colleagues who wish to chime in to contribute and bring additional substance. And I say substance, not fiction, not hearsay, not go to sleep and make up something, but fiction, but facts. Substance. Well, I gotta ask Bahamas Uncensored. But like I said, to wish to chime in, to contribute and bring additional substance to debate. Madam President, I want to say, may God continue to keep the Bahamian people strong, the government strong, and also the opposition. Thank you, Madam President.
As many. Chair recognizes Senator the Honorable Dr. Michael Darville.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Madam President, it is my opinion that everything the senator who spoke before me is absolute untruth. Rubbish, absolute rubbish, derived in his own mind. But I will, Madam President, this afternoon I rise to give God thanks for this wonderful
Senators,
opportunity
let's try to conduct ourselves.
and for his wisdom and guidance as
Come
I
on.
make my contribution to the Police Staff Association Bill and the National Crime Intelligence Agency Bill 2019, which I must say is very similar to the bill we left behind in Cabinet. I also would like this particular point like to correct something the lead on the side opposite said. He clearly indicated that the National Intelligence Bill 2016 was laid in Parliament by the Progressive Liberal Party. That is untrue. The National Intelligence Agency Bill 2016 was part in Cabinet while the Cabinet looked at the contents of the bill and put the bill back out for consultation to correct some of the issues in the bill that is being carried over by this administration, and this is one of the reasons why we have great concern. Madam President, I do support the Police Staff Association Amendment Bill that allows elected members of the branch board a second year in office. But like many Bahamians, believe that some elected officers in the Police Staff Association have their positions and use their positions as political platforms at the expense of the membership rather than focusing on the true intent of the organization, which is the progression of officers and the support of officers and their families. But Madam President, you got a break? Excuse me? Should I continue? Okay, sorry. Okay. Sorry. Okay, all right. Okay. Thank you so much, AJ. I will speak truth, and I will bring some institutional knowledge to correct some of the falsehood that has been spewed by members on the side opposite. Please do. I do support the Police Staff Association bill, and Madam President, that is a discussion for another time. But today my contribution will focus more on the National Crime Intelligence Bill, Agency Bill 2019, which was conceived out of a great need to gather proper intelligence that could impact the security of our country. Madam President, as far as I am aware, every independent country in the world, and Senator Henfield alluded to this fact, have either an intelligence gathering policy or an agency with the legislative framework to effectively carry out this important security mandate on behalf of the government and its people. Understanding this fact, the Progressive Liberal Party main objective in drafting the 2016 National Intelligence Agency bill was to establish an agency for gathering intelligence that would have a meaningful impact for the security of our nation. For us on this side, who served in the last PLP cabinet, this was a work in progress, and the National Intelligence Bill 2016 drafted by us remained in cabinet while the relevant agencies of the government worked with consultants, the AG's office, in an attempt to correct the anomalies that are in the bill and that is in the bill now that you're laying. Therefore, Madam President, under our watch, the Minister of National Security, the late Honorable Bernard Nottage, acted on sound advice from our consultants, senior law officers from the Royal Bahamas Police Force and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force on the most effective and cost-effective way to improving intelligence gathering while ensuring the safety of our officers and protecting the secrecy of the agency. This was a general consensus in the findings, and the way the Ministry of National Security was collecting intelligence information proved inadequate, and officers needed additional training, funding to improve the digital techniques, and the necessary protocols to be effective. In the final analysis, the recommendations coming from the experts was the importance and a great need to establish the agency. Therefore, a legal team, under the direction of our AG, the Honorable Alison Maynard Gibson, along with draft persons from her office, met with the parties involved to draft the legislative framework that would govern the agency's management, oversight, including the powers of search and seizures as outlined in our 2016 version of the National Intelligence Bill left behind by the PLP. Madam President, I listened carefully to the members in this place this morning and the other place who spoke about how the former administration operated an intelligence agency illegally. Well, the truth of the matter is, the Ministry of National Security always have been in the business of gathering intelligence by way of functional units within both the police force and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. As a matter of fact, many ministerial departments in government initially started up with only a few basic mandates and unskilled staff that over time evolved into complex operating teams that eventually needed legislation to strengthen their operation and structure along with funding. At that point, the point I'm trying to make, Madam President, is that there was and still is a lot of political mischief, and we witness it today from the side opposite concerning intelligence gathering, and because of the ongoing political rhetoric coming from their camp, many people still believe that the main purpose of the agency is to spy on them, which is far from the truth. Certainly, it was not the case under our watch, and I'm hopefully optimistic that is not the case going forward. Madam President, the current Minister of National Security is on record saying that on coming to office, the Free National Movement government intended to dismantle the small intelligence gathering unit left behind by our administration, and the fact that after doing so, his ministry would bring new innovative legislation to fix this vexing problem created by the PLP. He's also on record as saying that a former candidate of the PLP served as the director of the agency. Hopefully, the leader of government business in this side, or in this place, would correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe that this unit, the Ministry of National Security the Minister of National Security is talking about, no longer exists. And with the passage of this piece of legislation, the government intends to establish the National Crime Intelligence Agency, and adequate funding for this agency is available in the ministry's National Security Budget 2019-2020. Madam President, after all the We March rallies led by Senator Henfield and other F&M operatives whose political spin on the bill labeled our version of the bill as a spy bill that was supposedly designed for political purposes with one thing in mind, and that is to invade the privacy of the general public through the collection of intelligence on ordinary people and their families and businesses. But the truth of the matter is, our version of the National Crime Intelligence Agency bill was a work in progress that never made it to Parliament. Around the table, we all agreed that a few sections of that bill had to be revisited and possibly removed to ensure that Bahamians' constitutional rights were not infringed upon, and further consultation were ongoing months before the general election. And the 2016 version of the bill before us today could not pass the watchful eyes of our cabinet and was never laid in Parliament for debate and passage. Madam President, after proper briefing by the same people who advise all governments, the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Marvin Dames, must have had a Holy Ghost moment and suddenly understood the importance of such an agency in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. So he dusted off the old bill, renamed it, removed a few sections previously recommended by our administration, and along with some cosmetic changes, laid his 2019 version of the 2016 bill in this honorable place for debate and passage with little or no consultation with the general public. Madam President, to justify my statement, I got a copy of our bill named the National Intelligence Bill 2016, labeled as the spy bill by the Free National Movement, in order to assess the similarity in the bill before us today, called the National Crime Intelligence Bill 2019. The truth of the matter is, there is little difference in the bill, with the exception of the removal of Section 31 and 32 of the old bill, and a few changes giving the Minister of National Security more powers over the agency. The bill appears to be the same bill you call the spy bill. Madam President, I now turn my attention to some of the challenges we have with this version of the bill before us today. Webster Dictionary defines spying as a person who tries to secretly get information about a country or organization for another country or organization. After reading the National Crime Intelligence Bill 2019, we on this side need some clarifications concerning the certain sections of the bill. Firstly, Section 2 of the bill. The definition of foreign intelligence is defined as intelligence without capabilities, intentions, or activities of people or organizations outside of the Bahamas. Therefore, from this definition that we had a problem with and we were thinking about removing, implies that secret agents would from time to time have to leave the Bahamas to travel to foreign jurisdiction to gather intelligence on people and organizations on behalf of the government without them knowing, which according to Webster is defined as spying. Secondly, Section 13 of the bill, which addresses the publications of the identity of employees or agents. From reading this section of the bill, it appears that the director is the major face of the bill, of the agency, and the employees or agents must remain anonymous. A person who circumvents subsection 1 and 2 commits an offense, and on conviction to fines not exceeding $10,000 or term of imprisonment not exceeding 1 year or both. But in Part 4 of the bill, which deals with the general powers of search and seizures, Section 21, subsection 1, states, for the purposes of carrying out the function of the agency, an agent or an employee authorized in writing by the director may, 1, ask an operator of an aircraft or vessel questions relating to aircraft or vessel cargo, crew, passengers, store, voyage, or documents. Madam President, this section flies into the face of the anonymity of agents outlined in Section 13. Because the truth of the matter is, how can an agent be anonymous when a Bahamian have a right to inquire who is searching their property and to get a name and to have the ability to speak and to give that name to the attorney or to speak to any organization? You cannot take away my constitutional right. So by this section, Section 13, there is a contradiction which clearly is outlined in the bill. As drafted, we see this as a potential problem, and the anomaly must be addressed because it will certainly be challenged by the legal fraternity, and the government will be subjected to suit by trying to take away a constitutional right of a Bahamian with any agent searching their property or their person. Madam President, we on this side are very concerned about certain elements of the bill, which, in our view, gives the Minister of National Security too much power over the agency. A good example is Section 9, subsection 1, which outlines that the minister may from time to time, by written notice, give the director directions concerning the execution of the agency's power or the powers of the director. You see, it goes beyond that. It's just not the execution of the agency. He has the right concerning the powers of the director. In our 2016 version of the National Intelligence Agency draft bill, the word guidelines was used instead of directions, which in our view gave the agency the degree of independence free from the political directive, which is essential in order for the members of the agency to feel comfortable and to operate without fear or favor. Madam President, these concerns outlined by us on this side are important and must be addressed if the government is seeking the opposition's support in the passing of this bill, which seeks to establish this important agency responsible for gathering intelligence that could affect the security of our country. You see, Madam President, the members on the side opposite is painting a picture as if we on this side are in opposition of establishing an agency for intelligence gathering. We all know the importance of this agency. It was birthed under the Progressive Liberal Party. It was us who put the initial draft, but it was us who looked carefully at the draft to ensure that we were not taking away any constitutional rights of any Bahamians. Madam President, when we look at our draft bill, and I can distinctly remember because I sat around the table when the bill was being discussed. But like any bill, it goes through a transition and a metamorphosis. Okay, take it.
Yeah. Madam President, maybe this is the appropriate time to take a lunch break. We intend to come back at 2:30. Is 2:30 is fine. Madam President, I move that the business of the Senate stands suspended until 2:30 today.
It has been moved and seconded that the business of the Senate do suspend to 2:30 this afternoon. All those in favor would say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The business of the Senate stands suspended to 2:30 p.m. this afternoon.